When we talk about the question how to see things as they truly are, we touch on one of the central pillars of any spiritual path, meditation practice, or even certain modern psychological theories. To see things as they are, at first glance, seems straightforward. You merely open your eyes, observe an object, and presumably, you see it the way it is. However, in reality, there can be a vast gap between what is actually happening and how we perceive it. We have a tendency to add commentary, to interpret, to layer our experiences with countless memories or expectations, resulting in a distorted or partial view. In order to genuinely see the way it is, we need to move beyond many layers of illusion, language, and bias. That shift also leads to awakening, tranquility, and authenticity. Many people say, if everyone really saw things as they are, the world wouldn't suffer so much. Because for most of our lives, we are not living in the pure present moment, but rather behind the filters of thoughts, emotions, and cultural conditioning. A simple illustration: when you look at a flower, do you see it as it actually is, a radiant being with color and fragrance, existing right here and now? Or do you see a cluster of concepts? Rose, the color red, probably close to wilting. It looks exactly like the flowers my mother grew, and so on. You instantly bring in a slew of associations and memories. Your eyes see the flower, but in actuality, you are living in your own chain of thoughts. You are not truly in what is. Almost none of us realize this, because our minds are so accustomed to doing it, and we assume this mode of operation is normal. Thus, how to see things as they are begs the question from a Buddhist vantage point. For example, the Buddha emphasized mindfulness, Chan Niyam, which is to say, not imposing personal notions, but simply observing phenomena in the immediate moment. By grasping them fully without judgment or interference, one begins to sense their true nature, instead of living behind the lens of subjectivity. That is a key aspect of vipassana meditation, watching all the phenomena of body-mind without clinging or condemnation. From that vantage, we discover impermanence and non-self, perceiving the object as it is. But while that may appear straightforward, why is it so difficult? Because we perpetually bring along an I, a desire, a memory. The mind habitually conceptualizes, labeling or craving. Therefore, to see with total clarity demands a letting go of many attachments. Yet, seeing as it is not only a Buddhist concept. In many other traditions, Taoism, certain mystical branches of Christianity, Sufi Islam, or the approach of Krishnamurti, the same principle arises. We must see reality unclouded by preconceived ideas. Each tradition has its own method, but the fundamental message is consistent. You are not to project illusions onto the object or event. Instead, remain fully present in the actual experience, letting it reveal itself without your mental commentary. The challenge is that we, as humans, love commentary. We are uncomfortable with raw, unfiltered data. We want to classify, interpret, and thus feel in control. When we do so, we ironically lose direct contact with reality. If we look from a Buddhist lens, the solution is mindful awareness, focusing on breathing, pausing, not jumping to identity or memory. For instance, if you go for a walk, you let yourself relax so that your senses can experience everything without slapping on labels. The wind blows, and you sense the wind, not hurrying to name it cool wind or warm breeze. Instead, you simply register the movement of air across my skin, That is the beginning of direct seeing. Similarly, if someone says something unpleasant, rather than reflexively concluding I am hurt, I am angry, you step back and note, now that's a certain tone entering my ears. My chest feels hot. My head is tense. So far, that's just sensation. There may not necessarily be someone insulting me. The entire story of insult is often spun out by the mind. This is the demonstration of seeing as it is. In reality, it is not easy because our mental habits quickly jump in with, they disrespected me, they're wrong, I'm right, and so forth. In many spiritual traditions, seeing as it is also a path to reaching a deeper dimension, removing the veil of illusion and encountering underlying truth. For instance, in Taoism, returning to simplicity or uncontrived nature, fan fac, is seen as letting phenomena spontaneously reveal themselves. This practice extends beyond the surface, pointing to something fundamental. Lao Tzu's statement, "The Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao," suggests that if we conceptualize the Tao, we lose direct contact. In the same spirit, seeing as it is demands that we avoid confining the phenomenon to a conceptual box. The real world in its primal state far surpasses the limitations of our ideas. The core obstacle is that we dread the not named. We crave labeling. We want to pin everything down. Seeing as it is requires us to accept, maybe I don't fully know, or to let the phenomenon exceed the definitions we might impose. So we typically recoil to the old mode. We'll just name it X, or we'll stick to a certain belief. We prefer that sense of certainty, but once we let go of that fear, we find boundless vibrancy. Hence, seeing as it is can be terrifying if you cling to illusions, yet unbelievably freeing once you break away from the illusions. An important note, seeing as it is does not equate to passivity. Some fear that if they don't interpret or evaluate, they'll lose their capacity for judgment. But in fact, once we see clearly, without distortion, we can act more precisely. For instance, when you drive, if your mind is busy labeling that car is so ugly, that driver must be incompetent, you're spending mental energy on judgments, possibly neglecting the real conditions on the road. Conversely, if you simply note, that car is approaching at speed X, that car is drifting into the next lane, you can respond safely and effectively. So ironically, seeing as it is can enhance your intuition and decision-making. Looking at it psychologically, we often do not see events plainly, but through the lens of experiences or ideas. Suppose a person smiles at you. You might interpret it as, they're mocking me. Or someone else might interpret, they're being friendly. Possibly, the reality is merely a grin, with no added layers. Yet we project dozens of stories onto it. Our mind never rests. It conjures maybe they're making fun, maybe they want something, etc. That is the unceasing commentary overshadowing what is. Asking how to see it as it is implies building a mind that's transparent, observing a smile as a smile, not hastily slapping on interpretation. This is no easy task, because we are deeply ingrained to see everything from a subjective vantage. Yet with practice, we can slowly refine a capacity for unadulterated seeing. In the deeper spiritual sense, seeing as it is also interconnects with the concept of non-self. Why? Because when you truly witness reality without letting I, me, mine intervene, you discover that I is just one part of the tapestry. Existence, environment, phenomena, all operate according to interdependent conditions. There is no fixed center. That recognition lessens the dominance of ego. Imagine yourself quietly observing a stream. The water flows, leaves drift, the wind hums. You do not separate me versus the stream. You merely sense the total. That experience is sometimes called oneness, in which the boundaries of mental labeling dissolve. However, modern life encourages us to perpetually revolve around devices, social media, news, multi-level distractions. Our mind is layered with opinions, arguments, illusions. So how do we take off those tinted glasses? The answer is repeated in spiritual teachings. By practicing mindful presence, pausing, breathing, and noticing. All forms of meditation, basically, aim to let you be in the now, letting mental noise subside. Early attempts might only yield seconds of clarity before the mind reverts to old patterns. Over time, you can enlarge that seeing window, eventually living more in the real moment rather than illusions. One major hindrance is that we fear emptiness. If we do not label or interpret, we might wonder, am I supposed to keep my head blank? Precisely. That emptiness is the condition in which direct experience emerges. Typically, our mind is jammed with thought storms, leaving no space for the vividness of living reality. Whenever we discard one storyline, we create a bit more spaciousness that allows the current phenomenon to stand out. Over time, that emptiness becomes stillness, then aliveness. Some may also worry that if I see everything as it is, I'll lose all motivation or goals. The concern is acceptance leads to passivity, but acceptance of reality does not equate to resignation. Acceptance means you see clearly this is the situation, and then you take skillful action. If you resist reality with "I hate that it's so," you spend energy complaining instead of finding solutions. Thus, paradoxically, seeing as it is fosters more effective and purposeful action, not passivity, because you do not waste energy on illusions. Think of a scenario. You trip and fall, scratching your knee. The raw event is, my knee is scraped, it's bleeding, I need to clean it. That is seeing it as it is. The typical reaction might be, this is so unlucky, I hate this, the world is unfair. Then you're busy fuming and ignoring the wound, risking infection. So that everyday example shows how illusions hamper sensible action. Beyond such day-to-day details, seeing as it is also speaks to direct experience. Typically, we experience life indirectly through concepts, theories, prior experiences, or second-hand descriptions. True direct experience is confronting reality head-on, no mediator. For instance, tasting an apple yourself is different from reading about apples are sweet. The latter is second-hand. In genuine spirituality, across traditions, the emphasis is on living that direct experience. The question, have we ever truly lived the present moment, or do we only rehash old experiences in mind? While meditating, we discover it is neither hard nor easy in the usual sense. It is about showing up, ready to observe without adding illusions. We often approach it with some hidden desire. I want peace. I want to feel good. Ironically, generating tension because we remain fixated on a future outcome. Seeing as it is, for instance, might mean I notice I'm feeling unrest now, and we do not fight it. Even unrest can be recognized as it's so. Freed from the condemnation or craving, that unrest often dissolves on its own. In social relationships, how to see the other person as they are is likewise challenging. We reflexively categorize them. They must have bad intentions, or they are incompetent, etc., shaped by our own memory or prejudice. Everyone changes from moment to moment, So static labeling is inaccurate. If we want harmony, we must remain open to seeing them anew, not reusing stale judgments. This ties in with unconditional love. When we see a person with minimal labeling, not calling them enemy, fool, or monster, we begin perceiving the deeper humanity that might evoke compassion. Typically, we only see surface behavior. Seeing deeper might reveal they're in pain, they're lacking something, they're afraid. So their wrongdoing is a reflex of that suffering. In realizing this, we can move past resentment, replaced by understanding. Hence, seeing as it is fosters empathy and dissolves conflict. Turning to Christian references, the words of Jesus, "Judge not," can be interpreted similarly. Do not confine everything with preconceived judgments. If you truly see, you see the entire context, the deeper cause, leading to compassion. So we find the same principle in multiple spiritual lineages. The biggest internal obstacle to seeing as it is the self or ego. The I wants to interpret or control. The I fears reality may injure its self-image. For instance, if you truly see yourself as you are, you may discover many flaws, greed, anger, illusions. That can be painful, so you might deny it, forming illusions to hide them. As a result, you lose that clarity. Conversely, if you dare look, though it's initially painful, you end up freer because illusions no longer hold you captive. Over time, you can adjust, become more honest. In Buddhist meditative practice, we speak of moment-to-moment awareness, noticing body and mind in each present instant, not weaving in the I. At first, you can only maintain that clarity for fleeting moments, then forget. Gradually, repeated attempts create a habit of mindful presence, reducing the duration of mental wandering. We might worry, if I see everything just as it is, I'll lose creativity. Actually, it's the opposite. People who see truly can produce deeply moving art. They do not paint by formula. They paint direct truths of nature or the soul, capturing the essence. Many great artists or poets who had glimpses of that deeper seeing ended up producing works that resonate profoundly. Additionally, seeing things as they are is strongly linked to happiness. Much suffering arises from wanting reality to differ from what it is. People might moan, "I should have been more successful," or "Why didn't this happen?" By loosening that mental friction, we find a calmer acceptance, which yields spontaneous contentment. Freed from illusions, we are not forever comparing or complaining, so we can appreciate life's actual shape. We can also mention a philosophical parallel. Western thinkers like Husserl or Heidegger introduced phenomenology, aiming to describe phenomena as they appear to consciousness, free from preconceived categories, called epoche. That is quite like seeing as it is, but in more academic language. The principle is the same. You bracket out your judgments. Look at phenomena from a fresh perspective. Hence, how to see things as they are can be recapped in a few practical steps. First, pause and breathe, returning the mind to the present. Second, observe everything external sights, sounds, smells, tactile impressions, and internal body sensations, emotional states, thoughts as they arise. Third, refrain from labeling or interpreting, or at least keep labels minimal. Fourth, if a thought emerges, notice it. A thought is happening, then allow it to pass. Fifth, persist, even if at first you can only do it for seconds. Sixth, after that period of observation, you may employ rational thinking to handle tasks, but remain conscious that there is a difference between raw data and your interpretation. Seventh, Open yourself to accept aspects you find unpleasant, acknowledging that's how it is, which invites compassion and clarity. Arguably, the hallmark of this practice is simplicity, but ironically, we might spend a lifetime mastering it because we are so entrenched in seeing as we assume. The force of illusions is enormous. Often, the culture around us encourages illusions. Advertising, politics, mass media. Day by day, these illusions are pumped into our minds. So we need diligence. As the masters say, if you don't clean your mental house daily, the dust accumulates. Nonetheless, the path back to reality as it is reaps tremendous rewards. Inner freedom, because we are no longer thrown about by I like, I dislike. We start living more authentically, interacting with others more harmoniously. Each moment can become alive. We experience the wondrousness of the simplest things: a leaf falling, a bird's song, a smile. We realize that the lens we once thought protected us was actually obscuring life's brilliance. Furthermore, seeing as it is can awaken unconditional love. By not imprisoning others in fixed images or old judgments, we begin to sense their deeper journey. We see them in the present moment, with sympathy for their sorrow or confusion. That fosters healing. So ironically, the practice of seeing as it is paves the way for compassion and happiness. Ultimately, how to see things as they are is an ongoing process, rather than a final endpoint. Each day, we face myriad situations. One day, we might see glimpses of clarity. The next day, we might be overwhelmed by anger. We shouldn't despair. That's the nature of practice. We fluctuate between clarity and confusion. Over time, clarity becomes dominant. Confusion recedes. Those who persist eventually taste the fragrance of liberation. Many meditation teachers affirm that even a single moment of profoundly direct observation can change how you live. They mean that a single flash of seeing things as they are can let you sense the inherent purity or presence behind events. Once glimpsed, your life perspective transforms. You may still face difficulties, but you hold an inner window, seeing the sky beyond. Thus, we could write countless pages on how to see things as they are, because it is the root of awakening. From Buddhism to Taoism, from Krishnamurti to Eckhart Tolle, all emphasize present awareness. No judgment, no attachment. Although phrased differently, the essence is the same: directly perceiving reality, free from the filter of ego or prejudice. We might also warn, the process will reveal many self-deceptions within us. Confronting these illusions can be painful. We might realize we've been living a fake posture. Some people can't bear that discomfort. They revert to illusions. That too is their choice. But those who bravely carry on realize that illusions fall away more easily with compassion and acceptance. Then they get to live more sincerely and profoundly. Another question arises: if everyone sees things as they are, would life still hold excitement? The answer is that life would become even more vital, because illusions no longer drain us. Everything feels fresh and vibrant. The simplest everyday objects become enchanting as the layers of routine dullness fall away. Many longtime practitioners share that every everyday moment becomes miraculous once the dust of illusions is cleared. One might also note that some individuals, upon seeing more clearly, engage in more constructive service to society. Because when you see reality plainly, you also see people's suffering, the structural causes of social issues, etc., and you respond calmly. You might remain unclouded by ideological extremes, Freed from illusions, you propose wise solutions. Indeed, science too can be more accurate if the researcher is free from strong biases. In short, how to see things as they are can be summarized as a vow to remain mindful, to observe, to not jump to labeling. This is no minor vow. It is at once the method for achieving awakening and a shift in everyday living. At first, it demands effort like we note the breath, feelings, thoughts, but gradually it becomes second nature. The payoff is that illusions lose their hold, conflicts reduce, we become more open, loving, and effective in the real world. One final reflection. The human mind is an extraordinary tool, but we mustn't be enslaved by it. Seeing as it is means letting the mind serve reality, not rewriting reality. We harness reasoning when needed, but we don't let mental chatter overshadow the raw presence of the moment. Then we can unify bodily senses, heart, and intelligence. We realize that truly, each second is brand new, unrepeatable. Freed from illusions, we harness the full power of now to live contently and contribute wholeheartedly. Thus, the question how to see things as they are might, in theory, be answered in a single line. Stop adding your commentary, just be aware of what is. But in practice, it is a life-changing path, requiring repeated letting go of prejudices, illusions, and desires. By the end, ironically, we return to our innate original clarity, discovering that we do not have to do anything complicated, only remove the mental clutter. Then we exist in a luminous presence, always discovering new wonders in each breath, each glance. That is seeing as it is, a pure essential beauty that, if not for illusions, we would see all the time, right here, right now.